Let's talk about something that so many of us feel but maybe don't always talk about. Why is it that you can work your tail off your entire life and still feel like you're just not getting ahead? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain on a hidden money trap, one that almost nobody discusses. You know exactly what I'm talking about, right? The paycheck hits your account and poof, it's gone. Bills, rent, groceries, and then you're right back where you started, just waiting for the next payday. You feel like you're running faster and faster, but the view never, ever changes. If that feeling is familiar, I'm here to tell you, you are so far from being alone. We're always told the same things, right? Budget better, cut the lattes, save more. But what if the problem isn't just about your personal habits? What if the whole game is kind of rigged? Let's get into it. So where does this all start? Well, funny enough, it starts inside our own heads with a really powerful psychological state. It's something called the scarcity mindset. And here's the key. It's not just about being broke, it's the feeling of being broke. And that feeling is so powerful, it literally hijacks your brain. It creates this intense tunnel vision. You get so hyper-focused on how you're gonna make rent this week that you physically can't even process the thought of saving for something 20 years from now. And that's really the crucial point. The state of having too little money actually changes how you think and what your brain chooses to pay attention to. And this internal state, well, it leads to some very predictable behaviors out in the real world. So let's see exactly how this internal mindset pushes us into a series of financial traps that can be incredibly hard to escape. Think about it. When you're in that survival tunnel, you're just trying to get through the day. So yeah, you might put the groceries on a high-interest credit card, telling yourself you'll deal with it later. Or maybe you take out a huge student loan because you're told it's the only way to get ahead, without a solid plan to pay it back. These aren't character flaws, they're symptoms of a mind that's under constant stress. And the sheer scale of this is, well, it's staggering. We're talking over $1 trillion in credit card debt in the US alone. But you have to ask, is this really just about millions of individuals all making bad choices at the same time? Or is that scarcity mindset being created by something bigger, by these massive systemic walls? Let's talk about one of the biggest walls that millions and millions of people are running into head first: student debt. Right now, there are more than 40 million Americans trying to pay off student loans. Just let that number sink in for a second. And altogether, they owe over $1.5 trillion. You know, these aren't just figures on a chart. This represents decades of delayed homeownership, delayed starting families, just decades of constant financial pressure. But here's something that's absolutely critical to understand. This massive burden isn't shared equally, not even close. You can see here, the borrowing rates are way higher for Black and Latinx students. And this disparity right at the beginning of someone's career, well, it sets the stage for a lifetime of financial inequality. And honestly, this next statistic is just devastating. Get this, 20 years after starting college, the median white borrower has managed to pay off 94% of their debt. They're almost free. But the median Black borrower, after 20 years of payments, they still owe 95% of what they originally borrowed. It's a debt trap that is nearly impossible to escape from. So the question is, why? How did this happen? To really understand that, we have to zoom out, way out. And we have to look at the very foundation of the system itself. The racial wealth gap that we see today, it didn't just happen by accident. It was built, it was designed, policy by policy, over centuries. After the Civil War, promises of land for Black families were reversed. In the early 20th century, prosperous Black communities and the wealth they had built were literally destroyed. And even huge federal programs that built the American middle class, like the GI Bill, were set up in a way that systemically locked Black families out of the very opportunities for home ownership and education that were being handed to white families. And look, this is not some distant, ancient history. It has a direct, and I mean measurable, impact on how money flows in our country today. Just look at this one example. In 2022, a key federal program that's supposed to help communities gave over 4 times billion dollars to organizations led by white individuals. And the organizations led by Black individuals, they got just $540 million. That history of exclusion isn't in the past. It's baked right into the system right now. So here it is, the whole thing, the money trap laid bare. It's a vicious cycle. It starts with these deep-seated systemic inequities, which create very real financial scarcity for millions. That scarcity triggers that psychological scarcity mindset, that tunnel vision we talked about. And that mindset leads to behavioral traps that are incredibly hard to avoid. And of course, those traps just reinforce a person's financial position, keeping them stuck in the very system that created the problem in the first place. Okay, I know that can seem really overwhelming, hopeless even, but here's the good news about a cycle. If you can see it and you can understand it, you can find the places to intervene. You can find ways to break it. So how do we actually do that? How do we break this cycle? Well, the research points to a big 3-part approach. First, you have to strengthen the societal buffers. Things like fair labor laws, a real social safety net to protect people when things go wrong. Second, we have to reform our funding systems to make sure capital and investment flow equitably to all communities. And finally, you need bold policy action, like large-scale student debt cancellation, to give millions of people immediate relief and a real chance to get out of the trap. Which really leaves us with one last big question to chew on. We've all been taught to see building wealth as an individual race. You win or you lose based on your own smarts and hard work. But what if that whole idea is wrong? What if achieving real financial freedom isn't a solo race at all? What if it's actually a team sport? And what if none of us can truly win until we fix the rules of the game for everyone?